You should all get a message. Perfect. And I also go full screen. And as always, welcome at Vanagon Ventures Open Doors event. Especially in this hot August, we're having here probably 33 degrees outside. I'm based currently south of Germany in my hometown. Axel is sitting in boiling hot Munich, and Susan, after closing a deal that we are really excited to announce soon, took a long weekend off with the family. She's dialed in via phone. Susan, you can hear and see us, and she's waving. Perfect. As we always do it with our Open Doors event, and actually it sounds like we're doing this since forever, but it's the second edition of this. But our key setup is always that we give a short update about what's happening in the regenerative economy ecosystem, what's happening inside Vanagon, and then we have two portfolio companies or target portfolio companies, I would call it, as guest speakers. So we have Particula today, where we are the pre-seed investors, or one of the pre-seed investors, and we are Twino. Pardon? Oh, perhaps someone's on the phone. Axel.
Willst du mit? Ja. Willst du das dann mal reinholen? Oder willst du mal den Bagger zur Oma bringen? Räum hier ein bisschen auf, okay?
Steffi, you're not on mute.
Oh, sorry. Tut mir leid. Ich rede hier mit meinem Kind. Sorry.
Wenn der Bagger bei Oma ist perfekt. Okay. Then we, with Twino, I was in touch with Christian since a while ago, nearly 1 year, and I found it quite impressive on how Twino developed, and we also wanted to share that progress of what Twino is doing with the digital product pass. And kicking it off with a short update on what's going on in the world of regenerative finance. These news are partly presented by Climate Collective, where we are one of the most recent members, and we always look at the larger developments and large-scale investments in the regenerative economy space. And starting off with a big number, Blackstone just achieved a historic 7 billion funding for a private credit energy transition fund. This is quite an interesting movement that more and more private capital is being funneled into transition enabling technology for, in Germany, we have it with Stadtwerke, for example, that they need to invest in solar and wind power. And this is a credit instrument enabling exactly that. From the blockchain/crypto space, we all probably heard it somewhere or read it somewhere that PayPal also launches a dollar-backed stablecoin. We're gonna all see how this ends up. The last stablecoin experiences so far were, not that stable as the word might suggest. So now we have one of the big fintech players entering that space. And this can be, on the one hand, quite interesting for maturing the ecosystem. On the other hand, we have a further privatization of common goods. If we want to say money is something that is a common good infrastructure, we now have a large US corporate sitting on top of that, going into that space. And last, big congrats to our friends at Celo. Celo is a carbon positive blockchain. It's announced just a Google partnership that Google runs a validator on the Celo network. Why is this important? A lot of startups that are building in the green and climate space are choosing Celo as their preferred chain to run their applications on. So that said, for those who are in New York at Climate Week in September, we are hosting an event together with Mercy Corps, Vanagon Ventures, Allegory Labs, and Climate Collective, co-hosted by Sidewalk Infrastructure Partners. That's the logo on the left-hand side top. One of the largest investors there is Google. They are also a fund investing in climate solutions, and we're hosting that as a side event. So if someone of you happens to be around in New York, give me a short message. We at Vanagon, we won't be there in person, but we have some wildcards for startups that we can send there. So you also get a message about that. For those of you who haven't been with us for such a long time, I just give you a quick update on our thought process and our thinking with regards to our investment thesis and what we look at. And we, in the last few years, were observing different large platform infrastructure shifts. And based on that, we have 3 predictions where we think, okay, these are the next generation markets that will be thriving in the next decade. One of those is the topic of nature as an asset class. We believe that a lot of the situations that we're in with regards to climate change is because it's hard to put a number on natural assets, and nature doesn't have a place on the balance sheet of most of the companies. And the most prominent example for that is the market for carbon credits. But we're have a growing deal flow and will deploy further capital in biodiversity and land stewardships, so that we can make sure that land is being catered for in a regenerative way, and have also big interest from corporate players because they see that their future supply chain may not exist in the next few years if we don't change the way that natural capital is being treated with. The second prediction is that we say regenerative businesses can have a greater return with regards to financial performance versus sustainable focused peers. So what's the difference? Sustainability or sustainable business models are basically keeping the status quo of using our planetary resources, and then I want to say offset their way out of it. With regenerative businesses, they try to leave more after a product has been emerged into the value chain. And I think Christian will bring some of the examples today when we talk about the digital product path and circular economy, because their data is the key ingredient to align all the players in these ecosystems. And the last piece is real-world asset tokenization. And this is also where most of our, especially Susanne and my past muscle building came from, as we were always amazed of the opportunities about blockchain. And now we see a lot of real-world assets coming on chain, and the technology is running somewhere in the back, which is a large infrastructure shift in the financial service sectors. And McKinsey just published a paper on this, I think it was last week, where I thought, okay, I think we are reaching an inflection point about the real use cases. We're moving away from a lot of the things that we saw in the past years of private blockchains and the whole decentralized space. It's still thriving, so the whole DeFi applications and tokenomics. But then we have BlackRock and all the large players coming into that asset class. And based on that, of course, our thesis is that we always look at strong founder teams. We always say we look at movers and shakers who apply next frontier technology to innovate these infrastructure plays towards a regenerative economy. And what we see here is that we have 2 large waves coming together. We have the innovation of the third wave of the internet, where we have a lot of new emerging technologies coming on. And since the Russian war against Ukraine and COVID, we also have that topic of the green transition in a multiple of what it was or what we thought how large that market would be a few years ago. And we truly believe that we are positioned at a sweet spot understanding the large infrastructure plays, but also seeing the opportunities to put these technology to work in the topics that really matters. And that's why we say, okay, we are focusing on planet positive business models. As a like, if you want to categorize our thesis, I already like gave a sneak preview on what we're looking at. The whole part of circular economy is about how we deal with new supply chains of data sharing between players who are moving more out of a competition into a co-opetition, because no company can be circular alone. it's a play that goes via networks. The energy transition, we're also looking currently at the whole mobility infrastructure and charging business models, and nature as an asset class, a piece where we did most of the investments in the last half years with investments in carbon marketplaces, in MRVs, so measurement, reporting, verification technologies that use satellite data to measure our planet. And yeah, this is the key categories that we see, but always with a technology angle. So we often receive pitch decks about, I don't know, bamboo toothbrushes or sustainable sneakers or new bug-powered cereals, but we feel really comfortable in large software plays because we think it's all good to use recycled coffee cups, but we need those global large-scale solutions to really make an impact, and that's why we are strongly believing in using software. How do we invest? We are mostly pre-seed or seed investors. We reserve some of the funds for follow-ons. We always try to follow on as much as possible before Series A, with initial investments of up to 500K plus follow-ons. Our investors always have the opportunity to do co-investments. We also have a large networks of funds where we do some co-investments that are also interested in that space. And when it comes to geography, it's Europe. That said, we are based in Munich, Germany. So still Germany, Austria, Switzerland is key. And we see some deals coming also from Spain, Portugal, where we're not present yet. It's more like in the Baltics and North Europe, we have to admit. Yeah. That was basically our last year in logos, which was crazy because that's the slide I'm most proud of. Of course, we also joined new networks, made new friends, tried to bring people together, but most importantly, our startups achieved.
Yeah. How's the move? Are you all kind of settled?
Yeah. Okay. They achieved.
Love it.
Can you perhaps mute yourself, or Axel, can you help me muting if it didn't work? Yeah, we have the press coverage in all different media outlets and some large customers that our startup signed, which is just a great progress, because when we invest, mostly it's still a strong team, an idea and a roadmap. But seeing those come to life is like the most fulfilling thing in our job. Yeah, that's our co-investors that we joined our investments in the past. And yeah, now where we are in our fundraising, I mean, we did ourselves 10 investments now. Soon the 11th will be announced. And yeah, actually 2 will be announced soon. But our soft target of the fund is sitting at 30 million. We also grew out of that of an angel investment syndicate out to a full-fledged fund with legal partners, Feature and Orbit, fund admin. We work with Ace Alternatives. We have our first close in September this year. So we still have some perks of people joining in earlier. And we've recently also been asked if we want to set up a investment syndicate with European VC. There, the minimum investment is a bit lower. We are already collecting interest for people who want to be part of a emerging fund, but with a not that large ticket size. I look at the clock and I see I basically nailed the 15 minutes, and I come back to the first slide. First of all, looking into the crowd, also quickly stop screen sharing. Are there any questions from your side? If not, I would hand over to Nadine to share her screen and to talk about the journey about Particula. And let me say, let's kick it off, Nadine. You're also, yeah, perfect. Now it works. I had a bit of a lag. I hand it over to you and have fun.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much for the great 15 minutes of introduction. And maybe where should I start? I don't want to do like a startup pitch here or something like that. I want to more tell you about who I am, who is Particula, and also where we are coming from, kind of like our story, because I think it's kind of interesting how we found the first idea and then moved on, spoke to many people from the classical industry, and and then build a product which kind of fulfilled the problems we saw and the people were telling us. And I think this is maybe more interesting also for you guys. And then I'm really looking forward if you have questions. I think in the end we have still a few minutes where we can talk about that. And not sure if I stay, if it's maybe shorter than 50 minutes, I try, so we have more time and actually discussing, because I like that more. And start. Who am I? I'm Nadine. I'm also located in really hotty Munich. So I'm happy when the temperature is going down again. It's crazy here. But I'm not originally from Munich. I moved here in COVID times. I'm from the eastern part of Germany originally, in a really small town. And when I came here a few years ago, I was still like figuring out where I could start my career. I worked at different stations, and early I found out that I really want to do something with impact and technology combined. And my co-founder Tim, when I met him, he also really he was coming from a different side. He had like a classical financial background, and was really into blockchain at this time. And then he told me, hey, look at blockchain. There are like many really not necessary good use cases, but there are also great use cases. And I thought, okay, then let's try, because my impression of the blockchain space, so to say, wasn't that like the best one, but just because I haven't really like did research on it, so I had no clue. And when I did research, I especially focused on sustainability. I thought there are really great use cases out there, and I really saw value which was created when they use blockchain as infrastructure. And this was kind of like our starting point. We decided to found a startup together. It was the beginning of last year. And at first, we wanted to do tokenization of German forests. And let me tell you, it is not easy in Germany. And I probably, maybe some of you know, it's hard to buy forests. And then it's even harder to find forests which has like enough, or the area is big enough actually to do like tokenization with that. So we faced a lot of hurdles, but at that time we also did a lot of research, because we wanted to find out how can we do a more sustainable forest management, so to say. Like don't do timber, try to like transform forests, and we need money, of course, for that. And this is how we got into carbon credits as an, so to say, financing form for that. And I thought this is super interesting, because it can be an alternative as a forest owner. And when we looked into the space, we found like more than 100, 200 startups who are issuing carbon credits. And what we found out immediately was like, oh my God, this market is still intransparent, because there are so many options out there, and the data quality is also not that good. And it's really hard to enter this market of tokenization of any assets, not only carbon, but also tokenization of renewable energy certificates, also real estate, or I don't know, project financing of wind parks, solar parks, all of this kind of stuff. And and then we started thinking, okay, then let's talk to the market. And this is when we went out. We spoke to over 200 industry experts. So we talked to big corporates, but also the financial industry, basically, and asked them, hey, are you aware of this new market where startups are using blockchain infrastructure to create kind of like new financial flows into projects, or to even finance projects? Basically, and this is where we go now to the next slide. Those 3 points, so to say, are the ones they mention us. So the first one was basically, they said, hey, it's great that there are like so many opportunities out there, but we don't know what it means when we invest in those assets, like from a regulatory perspective. We are also afraid, because back then when we did the research, everything around FTX happened, and I mean, whole crypto had a bad image, and this bad reputation was spread over anything, even if it's not relating to that fact. But they were afraid also. And they also said the data quality was bad. We just find different data, and it is kind of like not making sense for us. And also, when we talk to sustainability departments, for instance, they are pretty young. They are not like there for like 10 years. They are basically last year created, and then there are like 2 people who have to calculate the scopes 1, 2, 3. They have to think about to make their old businesses really sustainable, from 0 to 100 in just a few years. And this is like, as you can imagine, a really tough part. And as I said, we just don't have the resources to conduct our own researches, to find out about new digital solutions on this market. And this is when we started thinking, okay, maybe there's a player missing in this market, when you have all of these 100, 200, 300 issuers who are creating those new assets. And on the other side, you have marketplaces and exchanges where you can starting already to invest as an institutional, but there are still infrastructure provider missing. And and this is how we came up then with our data platform. So we started basically aggregating data, and we identified 25 sustainable asset classes back then. And when we did all of this data collecting and doing a lot of basic work, because there are no standards. So what does it actually mean to be a tokenized carbon credit? What does it have to be classified as such, or as a renewable energy certificate, and so on? So these answers are not sometimes really there. So we had to find our own definition, and then put the assets into the fitting buckets, so to say. So and then we talked again with people, and asked them what they think about that. And then when they said, hey, that's so great that you're doing that work, it's great to finally have a market overview, but and then there was a but again, we still don't know, when you have all of this data, what is good and what is bad. Like, I'm not sure if I should invest in this token or not. And this is where we then came up with our rating framework, because we thought, okay, why do we have rating framework in classical industries? We have it to decrease the data asymmetry. And yeah, this is how we started. We created the framework, which is still in the beginning. So it's just the first version we have right now, and it will definitely develop over the next months and probably also years, because it's a new field and we are still learning. But yeah, this is basically also to give you an impression how our website will look like. This kind of will be the dashboard. We are just in finalizing everything on the UX side. What was really important for us, for our platform, is that it's easy to use for people, and also that they so when they are like using this this platform, that they have the feeling it is something they already know from, you know, classic from other databases, or from maybe a Bloomberg terminal, for instance. And here you also see our features, our basic features of the platform, so you can imagine how it will be like when you log into your account. You have like different tabs on the left side, and then you can search and filter for tokens, but also for issuers or the underlying projects. So those are basically the dimensions. And then, and this is also really important, we created a comparison function. So maybe some of you know just ETF. It's not even sure if it's a German company, but there you basically can compare ETFs with each other. So you put it side by side, and then you see what the differences are. And I think this is really important to actually see, this one has a regulatory assessment, and this one don't even has a terms and conditions. So these are really, really valuable informations. And also I mentioned the ratings. So how do we analyze those tokens? We basically look at different dimensions. When we analyze such tokens, we have, I already mentioned it, the issuer side. So we look, okay, who is this company? Is this a DAO? Is this a regulated company in Germany, or are they located in Brazil? Do they have a founding team? And really like information which gives them credibility. Then the second one is definitely also the technology dimension. So we look at the specific token and the tokenomics. We look, okay, do they have a smart contract audit, for instance? Is it really like, did they really like look at all the, I will say, risk factors, so that this token is not failing when somebody is investing because of technical issues. And then the third one is the underlying assets, so to say. And this can be basically anything with value. So it can be gold, it can be real estate, it can be a project like a solar park, it can be also carbon credit, or also water, oil, gas, and so on. And this is really tricky, because there are really the differences. So for every asset class, you have different parameters, so to say, or attributes. And for some, there are attributes which are more important or more risky, and in others, it's not there, or it's not that important. And for us, it was really, really hard to find out, okay, which are the attributes who are really making it risky, for instance. Because we are not telling which asset is more sustainable than others. We are more looking at, okay, who's more riskier, who's also more transparent, who's more compliant, really like those factors. And this is also the last dimension, which is really important for us, the compliance dimension. We really want to make sure that when you are a regulated bank, when you invest in assets, you're not just investing in any asset. You really have to look if this asset I'm putting money in is regulated, is pretty aware of what I really get, and also, and this is a really important factor, what we look when we are looking at these tokens, how is the asset connected with the token? Because when you buy and sell token, do I buy also the right of the underlying asset, or do I just trade the token, basically? So these are like the really fine things. Somebody wanted to say something? I can.
I'm just looking at the clock, and I think we should perhaps move into a like kind of an interactive Q&A, because you can also like position what you else had on that slide, just to keep in mind that we plan some Q&A time in. Perhaps where you want to finish, and then I want to follow up with a question.
Perfect. I just it's not that much left. I just wanted to finish here. Here you see some examples what asset classes there can be, but I already mentioned it, so it's not new. Also, these are the benefits. So maybe some people are asking, why do we need this platform? This is also some I already explained, and maybe there's always good to have a real example. So one of our first customers is the Liechtenstein Bankers Association, and when we showed them the platform, and this is a good example because they are already investing in those assets. For instance, they are invested in tokenized carbon credits. And when they looked at the token and they are invested in and saw what our data depth was like crazy. We needed 30 hours of internal research to find like the basic information about this token, and you even have a much deeper level for more token than just one. And this really shows where the value is in this research. And now I want to finish. Our platform will be released in just 1 or 2 weeks, depending on how the development goes, but it looks really good already. So if somebody is interested, just write me, and I'm happy to show you the platform.
Perfect.
And
Thanks.
Happy to.
Yeah. Are there any questions from the crowd? Harry, you raised your hand.
Yes, thank you so much, Nadine, for showing us and telling us all about Particula. I've been following you guys for a while. Met Tim in Barcelona maybe a year ago. I have a question for you guys regarding the ratings. Other than via the platform, will the ratings for specific tokens or underlying projects be available via an API call or via being published on chain so that we can integrate them into automated portfolios and other tools as such?
Yeah, so we were really focused right now on the platform at first, but having an API for the rating so it can be deployed on exchanges, marketplaces, or whatever, this will be the next step. So in the next months, this is also coming, yes.
Cool, awesome. Sounds super exciting.
Thank you.
Last question, because someone asked me, it's you have the Moody's for digital assets on your website. If Moody's already came along and said, hey, first, why are you using my name, or may I integrate your data? Did one of those two things already happen?
Yeah, it's funny. Yeah, we have a really good relationship to Moody's. We really got in contact with them, and they even invited me to their New Yorker office, so they are definitely interested. Maybe to what is their strategy, they said they would definitely also want to go into the space because they see the potential of growing assets which are coming on chain. But what they also said, they will stick on just evaluating the asset, so the underlying asset. So they don't have the competence to also connect the asset with the token in terms of also looking at the technical stuff. So they're completely ignoring that as a risk factor right now. And they said they will only do it for like big corporates who are already a customer. For instance, like for Siemens, they will do it. But when there's like a startup coming, then they say, no, we are not rating that because it's too small. Yeah, but they said it is a potential investment for them in a few years, definitely. So yeah.
Cool. Perfect. We have one more question from Christian.
Yes.
Raise your hand.
Yeah, sure. Thank you for the very interesting presentation. I have two questions, and I think it's more confirmations. So first of all, you don't rate the underlying asset, you rate the issuer of the token. Is that correct? And my second question would be, do you rate only based on the publicly available information, or do you enter into discussion with the issuer of the token?
Yeah, good.
So like a Moody's would.
Yeah, good question. So the first question was what we are actually rating. So the underlying asset, we are not rating it wholesale because there are already providers who are doing it, for instance, for carbon. but we are looking at the risk factors on every dimension, but it is connected to the token. Because this is the asset you actually buy and trade, so the rating will be connected to the token and not to the issuer or to the underlying asset, so to say. This is how you can imagine. And the second question was again.
Yeah, the second question was, do you put your ratings just on the basis of publicly available information? Or?
Yeah, so we have multiple data sources. We have, of course, the public available, where we're scraping blockchains, where we also scrape from the website, social media, everything we can find. And then, of course, they are still missing information. And therefore, we created like an automatic system where it already puts out the missing attributes, and then we send them to the issuer and say, hey, your rating right now does look like that and that, or your transparency score, and we need this in this attribute. So it is 100% transparency score. And yeah, this is how it works. So it is like a mix of everything right now. And it's not easy.
Okay, thank you. No, definitely not.
Thanks, Christian. With that, if there are no other questions, I would hand over to Christian, who's dialing in from, I hope not that we crash your vacation in France, but you're dialing in from France, right?
Exactly, from vacation. I call it workation because I always tell my family it's vacation. My family says like, no, you're working. So it's something in between, I think. Perfect. With a couple of calls.
Yeah. Nice. It's just as long as you prepare your screen share. It's funny because Christian contacted me like more over a year ago, because back in 2017 when this whole NFT hype kicked off, I founded a company called Kette, and we were using NFTs trying to register bicycles on the blockchain. And Christian approached me because I think you saw our software on GitHub or somewhere. And then we would always stayed in touch. And only a few months ago, we talked again. And I thought, wow, okay, the thing is moving forward. So I hand it over to you, not to spoil any facts in front. And stage is yours, Christian.
Thank you, Sandro. No, good introduction. And you were part of our validation phase, basically, and gave us valuable feedback on what industries might work and what not, and all the use cases. So, yeah, my name is Christian. I'm one of the 3 co-founders of Twino. We developed a circularity solution for the upcoming transformation from linear to circular economy. And we're team of 3 co-founders. A little introduction. Plamen and Alexis are also with me at Twino and pushing what we want to achieve. We know each other for a long time already. We met, Plamen and me met at work in strategic consulting more than 10 years ago, working together on projects and also becoming friends. The same with Alexis, who I know through the Center for Digital Technology and Management in Munich, which is also a large startup institution of the 2 universities. So we bring quite some technical but also strategic experience into what we do. So circularity as a topic, basically moving from what we just heard, tokenization of more like a financial tokenization of assets. We're here talking about tokenization of physical products. If you look at it in a technical sense, why is that? We're living in a linear economy basically since mankind came up. We're taking resources from the ground, we're making something out of it, we're using it very often for way too little time until we then dispose it into trash. If you hear some noise, that's my dog here in the background. He sometimes walks around. This needs to come to an end. We might not be aware of it overall, but we can see it and feel it in details. Already today, there's more than 100 times the gold in a ton of e-waste than in a ton of ore in the original material. Or if you think of plastic, now in the summertime, we might believe that because plastic straws are illegal in the EU, we have peaked plastic production. That's not the case. If it goes on like today, by 2060, we will have 3 times the plastic production. And we talk a lot about sustainability in regards to energy production, for example, or mobility. But we all have to know and be aware that about 50% of the CO2 comes from the product and the consumption that we all have. And a special topic in electronics is that in Germany, and we saw one of these plants ourselves that just burned a couple of months ago, about every 45 seconds, an electronic device with a battery, be it a smartphone or a electric cigarette, goes through a recycling plant and puts the threat of starting a fire and making this burn. So this is really, like, for this industry, a huge topic. Which brings me to circularity and why brands really push for that, but also governments. And there's more and more brands, luckily, that also take very ambitious goals and targets for circularity. Two examples here, Deutsche Telekom and Vitra, that we already worked with. They plan to go fully circular around their products. So for Deutsche Telekom, that would mean that they bring as many smartphones in the market as they also want to take out, refurbish, collect. For Vitra, as they say here, they want to follow all of their products along the entire lifespan, which you can imagine is a difficult task. So it's going to need more and better tools, but also rules to achieve these goals. And one is the digital product passport. Most of you are probably not aware of this upcoming regulation, but also technology. It's part of the European Green Deal, the Circular Economy Action Plan, and it's meant to bring transparency along the circular loop, so that we can finally move from this linear value chain that I showed in the beginning to a circular one. So transparency on materials built into a product, on the product properties so that consumers can make better decisions, on the compliance with regulation, for example, the amount of recyclat in a product. And last but not least, to give recyclers information on what valuable but also maybe dangerous materials are contained in a product and how the product can be recycled. By the way, if there are questions in between, because I know it's quite complex also with regulation, all that, just let me know. We can at any time talk also about questions. This digital product passport, and now we're talking also markets, basically becomes mandatory across almost all products that you know, which are produced in the EU or sold here or put in service here, which basically means, if you look in the world, which means most of the products in our world. And it's starting with car batteries already, large industry batteries. The battery pass was just a few weeks ago passed in the European Parliament, and then will come electronics, consumer electronics, furniture, fashion, the material pass, and construction real estate, because real estate is a big topic in CO2, also production and consumption. And this creates estimated costs. Deloitte estimated that of up to 150 billion over the next 10 years just in the EU. So what did we develop with the Circular Pass? The Circular Pass obviously is going to fulfill regulation. We're really close touch with the EU. In a few days, the EU will announce, decommission a program where we were accepted as a startup, where we get in direct contact with the regulators to discuss our topics and exchange. But same as the EU, we also see this product passport. This pass can do way more than just building a regulation basis. Companies can, for example, increase their customer engagement via the product passport, because you have a digital vehicle to exchange with your customers. You can build circular business models on it. You can go into sharing models, leasing models, take back systems, and finally, companies want and need to reach their circularity targets to be able to communicate more on what's happening and what is their progress. A bit about tech, what's behind our infrastructure and technology. We're using 3 technologies, basically, which is digital twins, where we come from. I did a lot of digital transformation projects at BCG, also in the digital twin and AI space, and saw there how digital twins and learned how they can be applied even for fashion objects, for example, fashion products. We then put these models in a semantic AI structure, which means our product passes become compatible, machine readable for algorithms. So an algorithm can know that Apple, for example, for a smartphone is a brand and not a fruit. And then last but not least, we tokenize these passes, these certificates on the blockchain to make them as authentic and unique as the product itself, so that also different partners can interact with this token and you always know who's the owner of the product, for example. How does it in detail look like our solution? This is an example of what we did with Deutsche Telekom T-Mobile US, a concept and MVP, how this could look like for smartphones. So you always have the circular pass on the left side, which basically identifies the product and is connected to it with an ID and also has the relevant data. Then we have our B2B circular hub, where companies can then see where they stand in circularity. So it also brings transparency. You can't improve what you can't measure. And right now, companies can really not measure their circularity. They do not know their footprint, where their products are. We want to get them more transparency on that. And also recommendations on what to do. For smartphones, for example, it would mean they make targeted trade-in offers to customers via, you see it on the right, the customer app, so that the customer can get a proactive offer when Deutsche Telekom T-Mobile knows, okay, this is a point in time where it's very likely that the smartphone is going to end up in the trash or in the closet somewhere. Let's try with a minimum offer to get it back. And then customers can also see, for example, product properties. It's a single point of information. They can see on a refurbished device, for example, how many pre-owners did it have? Was it repaired? What was done with the phone? Similar to many things that we do actually already work in the car industry. If you think of a Fahrzeugbrief in Germany, the Fahrzeugschein, you have a service check heft, so you know how was the car serviced, and we have a functioning leasing, a sharing industry. We have a trade-in for cars. All that works, and with our technology, we want to enable that this works also for other product categories. Yeah, we're working with, we always say, front runners in this industry. We're at an early point in terms of this new kind of software, because digital product passports is not a market where companies tomorrow need a final solution. So we're doing pilots with these companies to prepare them and to also build our software. Besides the two I explained, T-Mobile and also Vitra, we worked with in the furniture industry. We're currently working with the Circular Republic in Munich, which is part of the Unternehmertum. And from September on, we're also in the Entrepreneurs program there and working closely with the large corporates they have as partners on achieving circularity, and we're basically their startup for the digital product passport. And there's further discussions on additional pilots with large companies in the Mission Waste program, where we already exchange with companies like Nestle or Procter & Gamble on their electronic products and how to make product passports for these products. That's basically it. Since maybe last words on what has happened since incorporating last year, we developed our MVP. We developed also a patent on synchronizing the product passports with the actual product, so that they could, in case of an electronic product, even exchange data. Won a couple of challenges and funding, government fundings, and ran successfully through accelerators like Futury, Mission Waste, Explore by Unternehmertum, now Entrepreneurs. And and besides that, we're heavily working on our product. We just integrated a few weeks ago OpenAI in our product. So our passports also help companies to make their products machine readable. So you can use ChatGPT on our product passports and for example, implement a customer chatbot with our product passport. In a few days, will be announced that we're part of a European Commission program, and we have started our certification ourselves as a B Corp in order to also make sure we have the latest and best own sustainability and social standards in our startup. Looking forward to your questions.
Perfect. Thank you, Christian. Are there any questions from the crowd? If not, we turn it around. Christian, are there companies you want to get connected to? We have some highly connected people in that in that Zoom session here. Are you looking at certain industries that help that like manifest themselves as being a perfect fit for Twino?
Yeah, I mean, we see a pattern. We talk with anyone who's willing to do something, pilot something in the space. but we saw as a pattern that's usually front runners. That's companies that really are honest about circularity, sustainability, because we figured if you go by the websites, they all claim we're doing the best and latest, but then in the discussions, sometimes you find out, okay, it's a nice claim, but they do not really push for achieving these goals. So often this is very person driven. This is like by the board, by the CEO, by the family owner of the company, or companies that in general have sustainability as a strong, like on their agenda as the first topic. In terms of industry, talking to you about bikes, we figured the bike industry is not a front runner yet, at least the companies that we talk to, because probably of fragmentation and also other topics they currently have. And there are some obvious reasons that, as I said, like basically many things that we implement and enable are topics that we know from cars and that are normal to us, yeah? That we buy used cars, that we know the history of a car, that we know what services were done, that we can trade it in when we buy a new car. So we know that stuff can work, but cars are really valuable assets. That's why they were first. And now we take it into the next assets. And obviously that will start with the most valuable first. So expensive phones, expensive furniture, expensive fashion item. It's difficult to do it for let's say a fast fashion product, which costs like maybe €5. So, but we have discussions even in the packaging area with companies. But this is what we see, like the roadmap is coming very strongly: electronics, furniture, and fashion, and real estate. These are the 4 industries where we see the strongest pull.
Nice, perfect.
Yeah. So whoever is interested, also afterwards, connect me on LinkedIn, send me a note. Happy to talk about it, and also share what we learned about what's coming up with the digital product passports. We really see the momentum now in the market. We get approached proactively by a lot of companies that now start working on it because they realize the regulation seems to be far away, but it's nothing they can implement overnight. It's going to take 2 years for companies, basically.
Perfect. Christian.
Harry, I said your hand. I saw your hand
Harry.
going up.
Yeah. Or it was applauding. I don't know yet.
Could be, yeah.
Yes, it was applauding. Apologies, I don't have any questions, but just celebrating.
Thank you.
Perfect. With that positive energy, I would say let's wrap it up for today. Thank you very much, Nadine. Thank you very much for Christian from dialing in from your vacation/workation. Greetings and thanks to your family for supporting that you can go online. Same to you, Nadine. And we will follow on with the next Vanagon Open Doors in 4 to 6 weeks. For those of you who are working closer with us, we also have an event in September, our world famous rooftop lunch. Hit me up on LinkedIn or WhatsApp if you don't have an invite yet. And we stay connected via newsletter, mail, LinkedIn, phone, wherever we get together. Thank you very much and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thanks for the invite.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.